Work? Oh, shoot. I probably should have fixed this first. Oh well. We'll figure it out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of Free Refill, episode number 58. It is here on a Thursday, 7:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tonight is the moment we all wait for, at least in April for the NFL. The 2026 NFL Draft is about to get underway in give or take an hour and a half approximately, because, it's never going to actually start on time. But the NFL Draft is tonight with you got Fernando Mendoza likely going number 1 to the Raiders. We've already had the Giants with their 2 top 10 picks. A lot of stuff to get into. I'm going to be doing one final mock draft right before the draft starts. So these are 100%. This isn't predictions. This is just, factually correct information, what's about to happen here. So I am very excited to be able to do that and show you guys, the exact things that are about to happen in this. So I'm very excited for that. I don't know why my chat's not loading, but you know what? It is what it is. It doesn't matter. I'll just load it this way because, of course, this is how things have to be, Everything has to be not exactly just a pain in my butt. Regardless, let's get started. So, before I even get into the draft and before I even make my last mock draft of right before the season, I want to get into the 2 games I was able to catch glimpses of last night in the NBA. That'll be fun to talk about. Little Orlando Magic kind of return to their former selves, and I still have some. Can I actually make my own draft? That doesn't look like what I even want. There we go. All right. So that's basically what's going down today. I'm going to be doing one last mock draft. I wish this would load, but it doesn't really want to do that for me. Why did it make that noise? Okay, can I get that back so it just actually loads correctly? For whatever reason, okay. That's weird. I guess I have to actually physically get out of it. Whatever. Anyway, we've got the entirety of the mock draft that we'll get into after I chat a little bit about what happened between the Magic and the Pistons, and then, of course, what happened between the Phoenix Suns and the Thunder, because as a Suns fan, I'm irate after Game 2. Not because we lost, but just because of other general stuff that I'll get into right now. So let's jump into it. First of all, let's talk about James Williams and how he eats boogers and how, there's no way to prove it, but I just know. I kind of have an idea. Let me just start and say, I hated that. I hated that game. That game obviously bothered me. I mean, I never thought we were going to go in and win. I never had that inclination. I never had that prediction that we were going to go in and win. But my gosh, I mean, talk about a load of bull honky. Talk about the fact of the matter that the NBA in general right now, if you're gonna call it both ways. And I don't understand how it's impossible for teams to call it both ways. Watching the Thunder watching Booker go up to Caruso, and let's be honest, it's a flop. I've seen it so many times now at this point. It's just such a flop. It's such a graze. If Booker's bringing in his elbow one way, it doesn't make sense that Caruso is gonna put his face in the opposite direction and calling it not only an offensive foul on Booker, but calling it for what is dictated as an unnatural shooting motion. Like, it'd be one thing if you're trying to put him and say, oh, he hits Caruso. Sure, whatever. That kind of contact happens all the time. Don't know how that's a foul remotely. But now, we're going to go ahead and say, oh yeah, that's just an unnatural shooting motion. How? Did you watch what, Chet was doing earlier in this game? Going up against completely undersized defenders, who are a foot shorter than him, and he is actively just trying to shoot into their hands just to draw a foul. It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's it's no wonder that overall, like, it's why nobody gives a crap about the regular season. It's why a lot of these other games, nobody cares. And nobody thinks an 8 seed is going to beat a 1 seed. It's not what I'm saying. I didn't even think the Suns would have won that game if they got favorable calls, or like crazy unfavorable calls. I'm telling it from a perspective of, if you're going to call a basketball game, and if you're going to be a referee in a basketball game, and you're going to officiate these games, how is it on any given night, how are you going to call games like that? That doesn't even make sense to me. Like, how are you going to call the game so clearly in one team's favor that, by the way, doesn't even need that help remotely, considering the roster they have? And then also, not to mention, the technical foul on Book was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. I have never seen a technical on a player just trying to make a play to keep the ball in bounds. That's absurd. That's actually ridiculous, and it bothers me, and it frustrates me to an unreal extent. I can't even begin to fathom how absurd it is to be calling that. I don't, because it happens all the time. And people are saying, oh, it was technicals on both play. That's not the point. The point is it shouldn't have been a technical to begin with. What are we doing calling games like this? There's no technical there. You can look in the background of Caruso telling the official to give a T. When did we start going to Alex Caruso as our head judge, as our head ref? Never. And I love Alex Caruso. But we're going to sit here and go to him as our main referee? Are we nuts? When does he have any input on whether or not that's a T or not? It makes no sense. It makes no logical sense. It was one of the most poorly officiated games I've ever seen in my life. The fact that they got a game check, the fact that the refs got checks for reffing that game, you know what they should have gotten? They should have gotten, like, oh my gosh, they should have gotten pies in the face. They should have gotten, like, butt plugs shoved up their asses. Like, that's absurd. Oh my gosh. Just absolutely ridiculous. Embarrassing at a certain level. Like, they should have been canned. Done. Over. See ya. Goodbye. That's all I had to say about that one. The other game, I'll get into it quickly, it was the Magic. 30-3 is pretty crazy. Cade, we already know, is great, but Paolo is so much. Paolo is, I mean, and I think this is a fairly good comparison. Paolo is basically CJ Stroud. Like, it's not even close. I think it's pretty clear and obvious that Paolo's CJ Stroud, and so, like, he'll, for the most part, just not. He'll have, like, a couple games that'll make you convinced that he's back, but Paolo is never going to be any better than this. He is never going to be like. He's maybe like a very. He's like a decent 2. But I don't think he can truly ever be a true 1 for a championship team. And I mean, the Magic are nowhere near that. But it's like when you start having the question of whether or not Desmond Bane is the more consistent player for the Magic, then you run into issues there. And yeah, of course, I mean, they to give the Magic credit, they kept it close. They kept it close through one half. But I mean, a 30-3 run in the second half is just absurd. And that's what's going to cost you ultimately at the end of the day. So darn shame there for Paolo and company, and darn shame. It would have been interesting to see if they could have pulled the upset. But I mean, it was pretty. Game 1 was kind of maybe starting. I think overall, in the next couple games as well, will start to look like more of an anomaly than anything else. But enough of that. It's draft time, baby. It's draft time. That's all I gotta say. I'm gonna do one final mock draft for 2026. The draft, I believe, starts in like an hour or so, give or take. The 2026 NFL draft, yep, it's going to start at 8 p.m. So we got 49 minutes to pick for 32 teams. And I'm going to pull this up right alongside right now, just to kind of get, oh my gosh, it's so bright. That's always the one thing about these, is that my screen is just so bright. It looks so pasty. And boom. Wow, I can't even read that. How is that legible? Zoom in on that. Make it bigger. Boom. There we go. And I'll have to change this to adjust this. It should be. I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Ah! Hold on. Almost have it. There we go. All right. There it is. That's the full board. I don't know if it needs to be bigger, but I can definitely change it. But it's pretty much the full. Get in there. Yeah, look at that. That's good. So here we go. I'm going to predict this entire thing. I think I can go at least 80%, give or take, what I think I can do. I can go around 80%, I would say. Let's start with the first one that's pretty obvious. The Raiders are taking Mendoza. I mean, that's just not... There's just not really any other real thing you would need to look at. I understand, I take it back. I don't understand the Dan Orlovsky propaganda trying to get Ty Simpson to go number 1 overall. It just ain't, it's not going to happen. It's not. The fact that Orlovsky is peddling the Ty Simpson first round is absurd. It's a ridiculous sentiment. It should have never been preached. I'd be shocked if Ty goes in the first round at all. Maybe he does based off of need. But I would say I think the Raiders very clearly are going to take Mendoza. So Mendoza's at 1. Not a question there. The Jets now get to a very interesting position because the debate for the Jets is it David Bailey or is it Arvo Reese? Now, before I did a draft where I said what I would do, this is me thinking with my head. This is what's actually going to happen here. And I'm going to state this. I think it's very clear that the Jets, out of the 2 players that they're going to draft, especially based off the fact that they didn't meet with David Bailey, it would feel kind of weird to cancel a meeting with him and then draft him, which is just, either 5 head or 0 head. Pick which one. I think they're going to go Arvo Reese at 2. I think generally speaking, based on what's happened with Bailey and based on everything else that has been discussed, I do not believe that the Jets actually go Bailey based off everything they have described. So that's where I'm going there. Let me get into number 3, and then I'll get into the comments real quick. Number 3 are the Cardinals. And really, again, the Cardinals are in a position where they could pretty much draft anybody outside of maybe a receiver. I'm probably not going that direction based on already having Marvin Harrison Jr. still needing to kind of step up in some ways, and Michael Wilson, who is, very good. Arguably better than Marvin Harrison, but at that point, you would like him to not be more of the wide receiver 2 than the wide receiver 1, which puts them in a little bit of a bind. A lot of spots you can go here, but if David Bailey's on the board, there's no way the Cardinals don't take him. I feel very confident in this first 3 of who's going in the first 3. That's pretty much what's going to happen. That would be my guess. That's the most confident I'll be. I think Mendoza is 1, Arvel is 2, David Bailey is a very clear 3. Let me get into chat real quick. I see Marcus is here. Welcome in, Marcus. Appreciate you showing through the pre-draft mock draft. Saying, damn, Steelers just traded away their first rounder to the Eagles for a 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and Tom DeSandro. Oh, man, what a haul. Actually, what's interesting about this draft is I actually feel very good about this draft, not just based on the fact that it's in Pittsburgh, but also the Steelers have a lot of picks for this draft, which kind of makes sense. If you're going to host the draft, you may as well have a lot of picks and a lot of opportunity to be up there on the mic. I'm a little upset that I'm not there myself. I feel like I should have done everything I could to make the trip, but with work and with a bunch of other stuff going on, it was going to be very difficult to be able to make that trek out there. But overall, I'm still very excited that the draft is in Pittsburgh, so it'll be at least cool to watch from home. Jay is also here. Jay, welcome in, my guy. Always good to see you out here. Appreciate you pulling up. Jay saying, damn, Big Tom going from cheesesteaks to Primanti Bros. You know what? Hot take. I'm saying that's an upgrade. I like a cheesesteak, but I'm rocking a Primanti Bro sandwich over a cheesesteak like 9 times out of 10. Jay also saying it's the Jets Cardinal Tate. The Jets going Cardinal Tate. Their receivers weren't good last year. They weren't healthy, but they've got so many other needs defensively. Aaron Glenn needs to find a way to build a defense. He's got to take a defender there. And then Jay saying Bailey to the Cards. Appreciate it. Yeah, see, look at that. We're already 3 for 3. This is pretty much guaranteed. This is going to be what's going to happen. And, yeah, you should just believe me. You should put up a full parlay on every pick that's going to happen. The Titans now are very interesting. So I've changed my pick on this from last time. I originally felt that Jeremiah Love is probably the best option due to getting help for him. I've changed that a little bit. I don't actually, based on the fact that it's Robert Saleh, based on the fact that it is a defensive head coach, as much as I want Jeremiah Love to be the pick, I think you can get, like, I don't think, it's not a great draft for running backs. Like, you're either getting Jeremiah Love or you're just going to have to deal with your running back core as is. And I could see them going Jeremiah Love, but I think if you're Robert Saleh, you want your Fred Warner of this defense, and the best you're going to get there is probably going to be Sonny Styles. I think he needs his commander. He needs his enforcer on the defensive side. This is not original, by the way. I heard someone come up with this, and it kind of made more sense to me than Love, because as good as Jeremiah Love is, they're not going to have their offensive line, I think, fully built in year one of Saleh's coaching term. And I think long-term, if you can get like a franchise linebacker to play on the defensive side for the next several years, I think that will pay off in the long run, especially because I think especially when you look at this past draft, like when you look at how many rookie running backs, you've got like Quinshon Judkins came out, Omarion Hampton was solid, Cam Scatteraboo looking good. There were a lot, like I think there's always some place, Kyle Monangai, there's always some place where you can get running back production in the later rounds, even if you can argue it's like not a super strong running back class this year, there will be other guys you could potentially go get. Marcus is asking what's the site you're using. It's called, it's just Pro Football Network /mock draft, I guess. I don't know. This is the one I used last time, but I was just using it off screen, so now I'm using it on screen, so you guys can kind of see. But I don't know. I just used that, and then I picked all of them. So Giants, my pick has not changed in this. I very much think the Giants will still go Cardinal Tate. I think it's the reason. I know a lot of people will say he might fall to 10, especially with the argument of whether or not he's better than Jordan Tyson. All of a sudden, there's like a debate of who the best receiver is. I think the Giants still go receiver. I think they need to help Jackson Dart. I think that's pretty clear. I think when you talk about losing Wan'Dale Robinson as well to free agency to the Titans, I think you're kind of in a position where you would want to go out and at least have that hole filled. Because Wan'Dale was very productive last year, especially when Malik Neighbors went down. He had a career year. I think you don't want to lose all that production. And I mean, if I go to if I'm pulling up, they pull up the Giants depth. Where's my phone? Man, I don't even know. I lost it. Whatever. If you pull up the Giants depth chart overall, you're going to be looking at like here, I'll even pull it up real quick here. You're going to like the Giants depth chart. You're going to be looking at like Darnell Mooney and Darius Slayton, who, I mean, again, we don't know the status of like, I wouldn't personally be super confident in that as if you add Cardinal Tate, all of a sudden Mooney and Slayton as closer to wide receiver 3 or like a wide receiver 4 actually looks much better by comparison. So that would be my take, but that's where I would be at that point. Let's see. Let's keep going. So Giants would take Cardinal Tate at 5, Browns at 6, and I think the draft pick here would be pretty obvious. Francis Mauigoa. I think you got to go with the best tackle available because their offensive line is completely needed to be rebooted. They don't have. They lost their entire starting offensive line. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback, whether it's Sanders, Gabriel, someone else. You're going to be looking at needing to protect whoever is back there because the offensive line wasn't good last year. It's probably going to be a huge rebuilding process. At the very least, you can lock down a future left or right tackle for years to come now and keep yourself protected either on whatever blind side, either on the blind side or on the main throwing side. You need some sort of protection for whatever quarterback is back there 100%, especially in a division with Trey. You look at the Ravens adding Trey Hendrickson. Steelers obviously have TJ Watt, right? And now you look into a position where the Bengals have just added Dexter Lawrence. So I think 100% you need to protect your quarterback to have to be able to at least either develop him or just overall just be more productive in any sense remotely. Now 7 is where things get interesting. Commanders now have some room to play with here a little bit. And to be honest, I like, now that the way I've drafted this is a little different, Jeremiah Love being available at 7 actually looks really enticing. The question is, do I think they would go somewhere on the defensive side, which is also possible. But I think especially seeing like Austin Eckler go down, trading away Brian Robinson, I know people like Bill Krosky Merritt, but I think if you add some, I would argue Jeremiah Love is just at 7 at a position that, yeah, you've got some interesting pieces, but I think you still need something that's, tangible. I would probably say you take Love at 7 because if you could pair Jeremiah Love with Jaden Daniels, I understand they are at need of a receiver, especially with Terry McLaurin having a down year. But at the end of the day, I don't know. The only one that you would really take that high maybe is like an Arizona State Jordan Tyson. Outside of that, I mean, unless Commanders want to trade down like a few spots to like 11 or 12, because I could see Dallas trying to trade up if they want to get their defensive star, like a Caleb Downs, for instance, because there's no guarantee I think he falls to 12. So that would be what would be going on there. I don't know. I think Jeremiah Love, especially pairing him with the athletic Jaden Daniels, I think would very much work. Then you have the Saints. I think the Saints are very much in a position to take a corner. Their cornerback room is atrocious. I mean, the best I think they have is Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I don't even know if he's on the team anymore at this point. I would probably say Mansour Delane would be the pick here. I mean, overall the best cornerback on the board ever since trading Marshawn Lattimore. They just need some help on the back end. They've lost a lot of their vets. Cam Jordan officially not there anymore, right? We're looking at Lattimore being gone. I think at a certain point we got to start looking at it and saying, okay, they got to start building up their defense. Their offense is starting to look a little better, and I think they will improve that as well as they go through the later rounds. But overall, for the 8th pick, I think either Delane. You could also argue Jermon McCoy. I think McCoy is tougher to sell as a top 10 pick than Delane is. Mark is also saying, and RB's later round. Look at Davis in Denver. Yeah, very true. Right, you have a lot of different, just even like scat back type of players that can just get you either production in the ground game or in the pass game. I mean, a lot of those running backs, a lot of those guys are not first round guys. Granted, last year was a much better running back class than this year, but it's a lot of especially for a Titans team that just has so many issues. Whereas the Commanders, you could argue they could bounce back, be a 10-win team, and be reasonable because I think it's more confirmed that Jaden Daniels is a franchise quarterback, and Dan Quinn's a viable coach than say the Titans right now with Saleh and Ward still trying to find their way. Chiefs now are so interesting at 9. I think I saw someone saying Carnell Tate could fall to 9 to them. I really hope that isn't the case. That would be kind of scary, but I mean, it really depends. Where do they go? I could see a lot at the wide receiver position to me, and I think the best answer overall, in my opinion, this is going to be kind of maybe a hot take, but I think they should go Spencer Fano. It's not a sexy pick, but for a team that wasn't very good last year, I don't think they can afford to go and get us what would you consider a sexy pick. I think you need to go out and get a big boy on the offensive side of the ball. Because remember, Patrick Mahomes was basically running around for his life. I mean, he had a down year statistically, but when you watch those Chiefs games, it is him and him alone. And they're going to have Rashee Rice back, presumably at the start of the season fully. You hope Xavier Worthy can stay healthy. And I know it looks nice to take someone like a Jordan Tyson, but the reality is you have to protect the goods. And Patrick Mahomes is the franchise quarterback there. You can't afford for him. You don't even know if he's going to be ready week 1. If you start Justin Fields, then you got to help protect him to some degree. And then when Mahomes gets back, you also need to protect him there. And Fano, one of the 2 Utah tackles, is going to do a much better individual to put in that spot than anything else, I would say. And then the Giants come back around at 10. You get Carnell Tate. You still need help defensively. You just traded away Dexter Lawrence. It's not a great draft for interior D linemen. It's not super strong. They've got some decent players, but you don't have an Aaron Donald-esque potential of any defensive tackle here. Ruben Bain is interesting, but with how many edge defenders they already have, I don't think the Giants would go and grab him. I think the answer is going to be Caleb Downs at 10. I think despite what the degenerative ACL issues are, I think getting another player to help out on that back end is going to be huge. I would have also loved Downs to Cincinnati at this pick if he was available, because Cincinnati's really fallen apart since the departure of Jesse Bates. I mean, on top of obviously their defensive coordinator departing, but really Bates, I think, was much more the core piece of that defense than Trey Hendrickson ever was. Trey was a good contributor, but Jesse Bates was much more of the captain and the leader of that defense, and ever since it fell apart, I think Caleb Downs could be that similar kind of Nick Emanwari kind of player for the Giants. We got King Goku out here. First off, King Goku, let me get your applause. Appreciate you for joining in and commenting and watching this episode of Free Refill, asking, what are your thoughts on Carnell Tate? I think personally Carnell is the best receiver in this draft class. And I think especially I think the highest he does go is 5, though, and that's where I have him going to the Giants. Just because I think that it would make sense considering Malik, you don't know the full health of Malik Neighbors, and losing Wan'Dale Robinson certainly hurts. I don't see him going any higher than that, though. And I think it is. I know a lot of people are fans of Jordan Tyson. I wouldn't be shocked if Tyson goes ahead of him overall, but I think Carnell is. I think Carnell, based on what his build is and what his pedigree and what he was able to do at Ohio State last year, I think has earned a top 10 spot for sure. I would be shocked if he doesn't go inside the top 10. I would also be shocked if anybody other than Jordan Tyson as a receiver was drafted ahead of him. Like, looking at the board, Makai Lemon, I know a lot of people are in on, I think is very good, but I don't fully buy in as personally. But him necessarily being better than Carnell Tate. I think he can be good, just not to Tate's level. And then outside of that, I mean, there really isn't like a wide receiver that I'm also a little high on Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston could be entertaining as well, but definitely not like an incredibly high pick. I think Carnell is going to pay dividends, especially if he gets on a team like the Giants. Like, really, if I look at the best place for him to land, if we presume he's a top 10 pick, right? The best places to land, Kansas City would be probably best case scenario. I think the Commanders would also be really nice with Jaden Daniels, and then maybe like the Giants with Jackson Dart. Because, I mean, you don't really want to go to the Jets. Let's be honest. Not that the Jets would take him. Saints could be an intriguing option, and as much as I love Tyler Shuck, I don't know where he's at development-wise, and I don't know if that is just going to be an immediate translation. I don't know. I truly don't know how good Shuck is. I want to say he's good, but any quarterback can have a 5-game great stretch and then all of a sudden be great. I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm on the bandwagon for him, but we run into that dilemma of, is he actually good? I don't know. I think the Giants, though, is a great fit because if, let's say, Malik Neighbors is not ready to go by week 1, you have someone who can at least get those reps in with Jackson Dart in training camp, in mini camp, in OTAs, to at least fill in as the wide receiver 1 in the meantime. And then when Neighbors comes back, then you have a very scary combination of those two, not to mention Scattaboo in the backfield when he's healthy. And then the two other receivers in Slayton and Mooney act as great wide receiver 3s and 4s. It would all of a sudden be a very strong wide receiver core if Carnell Tate pans out, and I think he will. Spanning on number 11, Miami's probably going to be the one to take the next receiver on the board here. And between Makai Lemon and Jordan Tyson, I think Jordan Tyson is the just slightly better receiver. Listen, I like Makai Lemon. I think someone would definitely be excited to have him on their team as well. But I'm much more bought into Tyson as the wide receiver 2 in this draft class than I am to Lemon. Lemon's just probably under with him, like wide receiver 3. I'm going to so I would say Tyson goes to 11. And like Miami, we've seen the memes of Miami's receiving core. I mean, especially after trading Jalen Waddle. Malik Willis needs someone to throw to. There's no way Miami doesn't go receiver at 11. If they go any other pick, I would honestly be kind of surprised. And of course, there's with them being actually, it would depend on what defensive player there is there at 11. If Caleb Downs is potentially there's like a small chance they could go maybe Reuben Bain just because they did just draft the defensive coach. But with how weak they are at receiver, if they don't take one, I would be absolutely shocked. Jay saying, what would you grade that Tate pick at 5? I'm in the B+ to A range. Yeah, I would say right at A-. I think it'd be an A-. The only reason it wouldn't be ranked as high is just because if you're looking at it from a defensive perspective, after just trading Dexter Lawrence, the logic would be maybe add another piece defensively, especially on the back end. I think that's where New York is in a tough bind because they need to take a defensive back with one of their 2 picks. The issue is I don't think any of them you can justify 5, and there's a collection of like 3 of them that could go at pick 10. So at the 5, are you really going to go a pass rusher if you've already got like Thibodeau and Brian Burns and Abdul Carter? We don't know if they've panned out yet, but I would imagine Abdul Carter, you would have to hope bounces back. Kayvon Thibodeau carves out more of a role, you would hope. And I think you just have to go in with that. I mean, Brian Burns still had an incredible year, and I think he'll still be very productive next year. And when you're looking at the receiving part of it, I think that's really where... Because, I mean, they've got decent protection. It's not the best, but like with Andrew Thomas at the tackle spot and Jackson Dart's having some amount of mobility, I think it's a much better position to be in than anything else, I would say. So that's where I would go. Let me get to the number 12. We would have the Cowboys. Cowboys, a lot of people think Downs is going to fall to them. I kind of get it because safety's already undervalued, but I also feel like if you're going to go anywhere, Dallas probably needs a corner. I know Ruben Bain is on the board. It's tough. Like, I think you could argue Ruben Bain could go here, so they maybe their next Micah Parsons as kind of a player, but I mean, Ruben Bain's not the same. I don't think like freak out athlete that I remember Micah being. It'd be between him and McCoy. I would probably go. Who do I think they're gonna draft? I think the corner is just such a need. It's one of the 2. I'll say probably. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna go Ruben Bain. I think they do need their speed rusher. I think they need their pass rusher. I know they just traded for Rashawn Gary. Now they have him and Kenny Clark teaming up. But for Rashawn Gary who had a down year and Kenny Clark who is on the back 9 of his career, I think getting a guy like Ruben Bain could definitely improve their defense. They will need some help at corner, but I think they can address that in potentially later in the draft. Because I still think. And I guess I mean, you would only have to take Jeremiah McCoy, but I think there are some guys in the second round that they could go out and grab, as opposed to taking McCoy there at 12. King Goku also asking, kind of a new Rams fan here, who do you think they should draft? If I'm going Rams are interesting, right? Because they are very much in win now mode. At the same time, there have been people saying they might trade up into the first round to take like Ty Simpson to move past Matthew Stafford. I don't believe that to be. I don't think that's a super logical move, especially for a team that just went out and acquired Trent McDuffie to shore up one of their biggest weaknesses. Speaking of the here right now, if McCoy's on the board, I think it could make a lot of sense. I know it says low priority. I don't fully buy into that. You could never have too many corners, as crazy as it is. There is some stuff going on with Puka. Makes you wonder if they might want to take a Mekhi Lemon. I'm going to be honest. I think the answer here is Caleb Lomu. I think that's who they should take. I think they should take the other Utah tackle because Matthew Stafford is older. You're going to eventually want to draft a quarterback for the future. They should go out and improve their offensive line again. They should go out and upgrade, make sure they keep their MVP quarterback safe, and then have a guy that they can have to protect the quarterback that ends up filling in for Matthew Stafford once he's retired. I think that's the way to go. I think building up on the offensive line and defensive line, especially now, is going to do wonders for whoever goes in there next and plays. And what's interesting is I don't know if Sean McVay will stay if Stafford retires. I've always kind of wondered that, especially because we already know McVay was thinking about doing a TV deal back after they won the Super Bowl. So it might be possible that might be new coach, new quarterback, and they try to, kind of transition into a new era. I don't think that's what he does, because I think for a guy who's as nerdy as he is, I think he just loves coaching the game too much. But I think getting the other Utah tackle, Caleb Lomu, is going to be their best option there. And Jay also saying, yeah, I agree as a Giants fan. A lot of our Super Bowls were won with a gritty offense and a top-notch defense. I think a lot of fans are saying take a D player with 5 and that offensive player with 10. either way, I think that's going to be what they're going to do. I guess the expectation is maybe Carnell is there at 10. I'm not sure he is, because I could argue that, like, I could see the Saints looking to pair him with Olave. I could see the Commanders looking for a guy past McLaurin. I could even see the Chiefs trying to make that kind of a pick. I just don't know if Tate survives, like Cardinal Tate survives to 10. There will be a receiver. It might just be like a Lemon or a Tyson, but because I really like Tate, and I have a feeling overall, especially like Cleveland, I think already has such a priority on someone like the offensive line. The Commanders are looking to go with an offensive player. I think the Saints could. I kind of don't, but I would be worried about the Chiefs at 9 trying to do something snazzy, especially because they have another first round pick that they could use on a defender later. So that's sort of where I would be there. Next up is Baltimore, picking at 14. It's claiming needs are low priority. Ravens may not need a quarterback. Defensive tackle, guard. Why does it say? I've always seen this OC. What is it like? For some reason, it says OC, but like it says offensive coordinator. Like, I don't fully get that. Looking at who's on the board, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think the best option here is going to be wide receiver. I know people love Zay Flowers. Like, Baltimore fans love Zay Flowers. I think he's so underrated. I think he's just okay. I get he's like I think he's now a back-to-back Pro Bowler. The AFC right now, outside of like the high level, end level, like at the very top, it's like Jamar, and then there's everybody else. I don't think Zay. Like, if I'm really looking at where they need to go, it's either going to be Mekhi Lemon or Jermon McCoy. I could see them going either. Which one do I think is more likely? I'm going to say they probably roll. They would, yeah. You know, they're going to take McCoy. I think they're going to take McCoy because Marlon Humphrey has kind of just regressed in his play over the years. They need a new cornerback in that division. They need someone to be able to try and slow down someone like Jamar Chase. I know they drafted Nate Wiggins, but he hasn't always exuded confidence. He can be a little inconsistent, and I think trying to pair the two at cornerback would be my personal best option. Mekhi Lemon also isn't a bad pick. I think that could also be it. Like, even now as I say it, I could easily talk myself from the Mekhi Lemon pick, but I've already made the selection. So I've already made the choice for Baltimore. They're going with McCoy, and I think it's still a good pick regardless, especially with an aging Marlon Humphrey. Jay saying, don't get me wrong, I'd be very happy with Tate. I'd be very happy with Cardinal Tate. I think Cardinal Tate would probably have a better year this year, no matter where he goes, over both the Steelers receivers of DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. I know it's like major doomer energy, but I just don't buy into the unk receivers right there. I'm not in on it. Jets on the board, or no, Jets aren't on the board. Bucks are on the board. Bucks come in on the board. They've got an interesting case. I could see a few picks here, but I gotta be honest. I think the one where they are 100% like overall weakest, they could go wide receiver, but they just drafted Egbuka. I don't think they will go Mekhi Lemon here. I shy away from making this pick for them because the last time I remember they picked at this position, it didn't go well, and that was with O.J. Howard. But I'm going to go with Kenyon Sadiq. I think getting some more athleticism for them at that position, I know it was the same pick I made in the last mock draft I did. I think Sadiq is an athletic weapon. They need someone else in the red zone now that Mike Evans has departed. I think it's going to be, they need someone to just help Baker Mayfield. This is already a team that is highly explosive on offense. You can add him as that kind of red zone threat. I like the idea of adding tight end and seeing where it goes. They need an additional pass catcher anyways after, losing Mike Evans to free agency of the 49ers. I like this pick. I would roll with it. That leaves the Jets now. Now, the Jets, of course, I also think wide receiver is very much an option. Garrett Wilson wasn't fully healthy last year. Mekhi Lemon at 16 would fall in a good spot for them at that point. If they can because Garrett Wilson, was their leading receiver, and he was hurt for part of the year, and didn't even have 400 yards. So they clearly need some help at that offensive position. I just think at 3 is too hard to reach. I just don't see myself looking at the entirety of the. It was so bad. I mean, even back in like Rodgers' year of 2024, it wasn't good. Then 2025 came along, it somehow got worse again. They need somebody to be able to pair if Garrett Wilson's not going to be fully healthy, or if Garrett Wilson just doesn't live up to expectation next year. I think Makai is definitely the guy I would roll with. King Goku's out there. I subscribed to you, by the way. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you for dropping a sub. Glad you covered the NBA as well. So far, the playoffs have been very good so far. Hopefully, 76ers getting beat back soon. I hope so, too, especially after the Game 2. I know the Celtics are usually really bad in Game 2s, but I do want that to be more of a series. Because now, I mean, especially now with Portland and San Antonio is definitely a series, depending on when Wemby's back, right? Magic were able to get a win as well. I'm just upset my Suns couldn't get a win. But you know what? It happens. It is what it is. Hoping that they... That officiating was dog, man. that game, that game just made me. I never really had a disdain for the Thunder until after that game, and then I really felt what it feels like everyone else feels. Like we don't play them enough. We didn't play them nearly as often, right? But seeing it so much, it's a nightmare. It was so painful, and it bummed me out. But playoffs have been good though, especially with the Knicks Hawks are on right now. Speaking of Knicks Hawks, let me actually see what we're looking like in that series. Hold on. My phone is like flipping out everywhere. Let's see. What's the score of the Knicks-Hawks game? Oh my gosh! Hawks are up 12. Actually, I say Hawks are up 12, but I don't think that's... I think the Knicks can come back there. Because, I mean, that game was a series of runs last time, and Hawks came back. I think the Knicks could still get that win there. And then Jay also saying, I honestly, and it's the Jets again, I think they pull a Brady over Sapp and take Ty Simpson. Ooh! Ty Simpson to the Jets at 16. That is wild stuff. I could see it, but man, I could see it, but 16 is so high for Ty Simpson. It's just so much. I really think Ty is like a second rounder. I hope teams don't take that in. He could be very talented, don't get me wrong, but he's more of a project than I think people realize. He's got incredible touch with the ball. I saw some great throws at Bama, but it feels like much more of a project than people are underselling how much of a project it is, because it will still be a fairly decent project to get him NFL ready. Then Marcus said, glad they called it a foul. My parlay hit, go refs. Man, Marcus, get out of here. Get out of here with that. Unbelievable. They calling my man booked for a tech. It was ridiculous. I've never seen that. It doesn't even make sense. Oh my God. Lions, they are in need of a couple of things. They don't really need anything offensively. They're in either trouble defensively. You know what? I'm going to say this. I think the Lions actually do make this pick. I'm fairly confident. If he's there, Monroe Freeling out of Georgia, I think they do. And the main reason why is because Penei Sewell's great, but the dominance. Like, remember, the game that really ended the Lions season was against the Vikings. That was the game where it finally came apart, and Brian Flores just ripped apart that offense. And I think they need to be able to protect against those pass rushers in that division. Because now you're going to have Micah Parsons in that division. You know how dangerous the Vikings are. You need to be able to protect, frankly, a mostly immobile Jared Goff. I think you got to go the Lions there. I think you take Monroe Freeling if he's available. And then for the Vikings, it kind of lines up, but I like Dylan Thineman. I think Dylan Thineman is like of all the picks, I think that is the one that hits, and he goes to the Vikings because, listen, Dylan Thineman, Oregon safety, just reminds me of Harry the Hitman. They need someone to fill in the shoes of Harry the Hitman, who was a long-standing part of their team for like a decade plus. Go out and get yourself the next Harrison Smith and Dylan Thineman. That's what I just like that idea. Then we got the Panthers. Panthers are in a very weird spot because I feel like they could go a number of different directions. And at this point, I'm kind of looking across the board who I really like and who I think is going to go to them. I know Peter Woods is an option. I don't think they invest in another defensive tackle. I think they need to either get Bryce Young like another weapon, and I think that's where they would go. And you know what? I think they do get him another weapon. I think they go out and get Omar Cooper Jr., and he's going a little earlier than I think he's gone in most drafts from what I've seen. But I think Carolina just needs more consistency from their weapons. I know they already drafted a receiver last year. I mean, it could be 3 straight years they go get a wide receiver. But I think they really need to load up in that division. And I think that division especially is very winnable when you look at the overall what would I call it? The overall makeup. It's a weak NFC South. I think getting another receiver, they can reasonably do that without needing to bite the bullet anywhere else. And then Dallas is back on the board at 20. And I guess this is kind of where I maybe should have looked at the board a little bit, because now it's going to be tough to get a corner that's not a reach. But I do think they really kind of need it. And Colton Hood's hard to take there. Colton Hood's really hard to take there at 20. The only other thing I could potentially suggest, I mean, they need a tackle. They don't really need a tackle. They don't need defensive tackle. They already have like a guy like in the form of Kenny Clark. I guess the only other option is to try to go edge defenders. And you know what? How about let's just make it funny? Let's just get them both the Miami, Florida defenders. Like, let's go get them both of those edge defenders in the form of Akeem Mesidor. Jerry's gonna reach. He wants the entirety of Miami's pass rush, the one that made it difficult for Indiana that whole time. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna go out and they're gonna pair up both edges because Jerry Jones is ludicrous. Jerry Jones is insane. He's a crazy man. He's gonna go out and get 2 Miami of Florida pass rushers in the top 20. Watch it happen. JS saying good pick if they go there too. I was looking at the tight end Delp for the Panthers, but Cooper's the pick, I think, and then Falk for the Cowboys. Yeah, Falk does make sense. Keldrick Falk being at top out of Auburn, but man, I think Jerry's gonna do something wild. I think he's gonna be a freak. He does that sometimes. He's a little bit of a freak. As for the Steelers, this is where maybe. I think around, once we get past, like, pick 18, I think we're going to start hearing, who's going to try to go get Ty Simpson, right? Pittsburgh would be probably the first team to really consider going out and getting Ty. And I'm going to say, and here's the thing, it's in Pittsburgh, right? It's in Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh slighted to go out and get the quarterback? And I'm going to say no. I think we go unsexy. We just go get the best guard. And they do need some interior help on the line. It does kind of bug me that we still haven't figured out if Aaron Rodgers is going to play for the team or not. That definitely influences this decision, but I will be watching closely, my good eyes, to determine if that's what Pittsburgh does. No guarantees, but I don't know, man. I think they're just going to go and get the best guard available, or best player of need available, and that's one of their biggest needs is the interior of that line. Then for the Chargers, they would have loved to have Ionina. Of course, we steal it from them because, we're evil. Blake Miller or Caden Proctor are both options. I think Caden Proctor is more of a project, which is why I don't think they would go there. They could potentially move him to guard, and that's fairly reasonable. It's really tough because that's who you would want. If you're the Chargers, that interior line would help. Because you just need your tackles healthy, right? You want your tackles healthy. I'm gonna say they go Blake Miller just because I think he's a little bit more proven than a guy like Proctor, who is still, I feel, for the most part, a project. I just don't really. But also, I feel like if you're gonna switch one of them to guard, Proctor's the easier one to do. And you know what? Probably gonna go Proctor. I think they would go Proctor here at 22. That would be my guess. Marcus saying Rodgers will announce it during the McAfee Draft Spectacular. Of course. I know he would. He 100% will. I have a very strong conviction that is exactly what happens. Let's roll to pick 23 for the Eagles. Now, here's the thing. Eagles might not have A.J. Brown by the end of this draft. It's very possible. The question is, do they? Like, do they not have A.J. Brown? I know how much they love Georgia players, but they are so stacked at the defensive tackle spot that I really don't think they do that again. They could use an outside pass rusher. If Keldrick Falk is here, I think the Eagles would take him. I just think they need some outside pass rush help, especially after Brandon Graham came out of retirement to try to help him. Yeah, that's kind of an indication. And you trade for Jalen Phillips, who's now gone for agency. You need some outside pass rush help. Keldrick Falk's going to be the way to go. And then here's Cleveland again. I mean, with a bunch of different options, they could go tackle. I could have them double dip into tackle. I think they should take a receiver here, ultimately. And it's tough. Like, Casey Concepcion is on this list, right? What about, like, a Denzel Boston? I'm kind of high on him. I kind of like him on this list as well. And I think, listen, Denzel's a big physical receiver. I'm going to, you know what? Let's go take the, you know what? Let's say they reach. But I think it's a very good pick. I think Denzel Boston has exuding potential with his size. I think you could argue it's a reach, but I think in an area like Cleveland, if you're going to take a receiver, I think you would rather have Boston over Concepcion. Just because I like KC, don't get me wrong. He's just a little, what do you just say? I don't know. Boston just feels like the more, like, you see, 5'11", 187 in Cleveland is not quite what it feels like it's going to work. Especially when you're looking at, like, you know, cold weather environments. Like, it could work for a dome team. I have no issue working it for a dome team. And we've seen shorter players succeed. But honestly, if I'm looking for a prototypical receiver, I would want Denzel Boston, especially if I'm playing in the physical AFC North. King Goku asking just a fun question. If you could bring back one prime wide receiver back to the NFL, who would you bring back? For me, Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald's a great choice. And I'll say this. I think if we're talking prime, like strict prime, this is going to be a hot take because a lot of people will talk about, you know, these elite wide receivers, right? Like these incredible, like you can use Hall of Famers. I'm going to give you a hot take. I'm going to give you a prime that I think we were robbed of, and it's Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon in 2013 was a man possessed, came out of nowhere, was good in Cleveland with bad quarterbacks. If we got Josh Gordon back today in his prime to just wreak havoc on NFL defenses, such a treat. I think it would be such a treat. But listen, I think it would be an incredible opportunity. Watching what he did that year, I think it was was it the first time it was like back-to-back 200-yard games? I don't know if any receiver had done that before. He did. That was just, that stretch of 2 weeks was just ridiculous. And bringing him back, I think, to be in his prime, to have another shot to go through it, I think would be awesome. As much as I am like a Steelers fan, I should root for the Browns, but I think it would be so cool to see that. I also would love, I miss Antonio Brown so much as a Steelers fan. I would love to see him back in his prime. You know who else? And I'll give you my third. My third would be Dez Bryant. Because I think, because like, again, like guys like who have been great for years, like I would love to bring them back and see them play, but I've also seen them be great for so long. Whereas Dez had like an incredible prime, but it was kind of short. Like it really kind of ended circa 2015 when he broke his foot. And once he broke his foot, he was never quite the same guy. But watching Dez throw the X up, it was like one of my favorite parts of the Dallas Cowboys. There was like, even that year where he broke his foot, he catches like a Hail Mary against the Eagles, which was like, not really a Hail Mary. It was more of like a deep 40-yard pass, but it's just an amalgamation of bodies, and he just reaches up and grabs it over them all. I think Dez was such a fun receiver when he was in his prime. I wish we could have gotten more of it than we did, but I am glad for the parts that we did get. So that was really cool to just see Dez be able to do that. That was just awesome. Jay also saying Plexico Burris, if he didn't cheddar bob himself, my God. Yeah, true. If he hadn't pulled out his blicky and shot himself in the leg, we could have gotten a lot more Plexico. There was almost someone else too. Oh, also, like, not like a prime wide receiver that had a huge prime, but I always liked Marvin Jones Jr. I always he was pretty overall solid in Cincinnati, and then when he went to Detroit, he was never like elite, but he was always like super underrated. I felt like all the time. I felt like I never saw. I think also I looked it up because I looked up recently. He had like no fumbles his entire career until like his last season he played. He fumbled one time. Like, that's super impressive for a guy that I remember taking a bunch of hits. So Marvin Jones Jr. was a dog, just straight up. Marcus also saying, man, y'all forgetting the GOAT white hype. Man, we all forgetting the GOAT white hype. Wayne Corbett. Wayne Corbett was great. Didn't they have like a cereal? He had like a cereal sponsorship. It was like Corbett Crunch. It was like with Captain Crunch. Or was it just its own cereal? I don't fully remember. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do remember me some Wayne Corbett. Probably top 10 Jet. Probably like top 10 Jet of all time, but like either 9 or 10. I don't know. Because there's like low key some really good Jet players, despite their bad history. Getting back into the draft, the Bears, we're at the Bears pick. We are at the Bears pick. Bears are on the board. We need to get them some help. Peter Woods is available out of Clemson. I don't hate that pick. Or Caden McDonald. Both are pretty solid. I'm trying to see. Peter Woods. Peter. A lot of people apparently think Caden McDonald's the best player. You know what? Let's go ahead. Bears take Caden McDonald. They do need some help, though. I think in general, being able to get the run... hold on. Headphones died. To get the run game going, I think especially... Or to get run games stopped, I think especially for a team that does run the ball as much as they do, being able to control how much the other team runs is going to be a big factor there. So I think that's definitely the right pick there. Bills, they could take Concepcion. I don't... Again, it's the same issue. He's a shorter guy. I mean, it's the Xavier Worthy problem. I don't think it's a great pick overall. There's a linebacker that's been really underrated. I don't think he's necessarily a first rounder. He's more of like an early second. But if the Bills were to reach and go out and help defensively, I really like Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech could be their next Matt Milano-esque player. And they need some help in the interior. They need their next guy to be their Matt Milano. I could see Jacob Rodriguez. I could see the Bills kind of reaching or even trading back to go get him. But I like that pick a lot. 49ers sit at 27. I know they just re-signed Trent Williams, but it's only to 2 years, $50 million. That's probably, I think, his last contract, in my humble opinion. They're going to need an offensive lineman. I like both Max Ionkor. I like me some Blake Miller. I think Blake Miller's just more of he's a very sound guy. Was a 4-year starter at Clemson. I'm just wondering if they think Max could be pretty good, though. Man, I'm not sure who I'm liking. 6'5", 3. I'm liking both of these guys. I'm going to go and say I think I would take the Arizona State one. I think I'd take Max Ionkor. The only reason is because he's just an inch shorter, and to be honest, I don't know. I think I understand being like the 6'6", 6'5". He's only 6'5". He's like only an inch shorter, but it allows him to not get beat underneath him as much, especially on those outsides. Like, it helps slightly. Not a whole lot, but slightly. And it could be the difference. I'm going to go Max Ionkor, the Arizona State kid. 5 more picks to go. I like how it says low priority quarterback when I think the Texans quarterback play sucked from CJ Stroud. Let's see. Guard, defensive tackle. Peter Woods being available, I think, is also really solid. Christian Miller as well. This is one where I almost see Casey Concepcion working. The only problem is, they actually do have like a decent receiver room, and they've spent a lot of draft capital already on receiver. So I would probably say they would take Peter Woods here. They would get the second best defensive tackle on the board, generally speaking. And then they shore up the interior. I think that pick makes a lot of sense. Chiefs now back on the board. We originally had them going and taking Spencer Fano on the offensive side. I think they're going to need some help defensively. I could see Colton Hood being a very smart pick here, especially, or Brandon Siasi, one of those two, South Carolina kid. I'm wondering if, because I know the wide receiver looks again like the sexy pick here, but they're not going to take Concepcion after they just made kind of that mistake with Xavier Worthy, and it's looked like a mistake so far. I'm going to say Colton Hood. It's either Colton Hood or it's like Kristen Miller, but I could see Kristen Miller sliding a little bit. Georgia defensive tackle, though, really hard to pass up on. It's either that or Colton Hood. I'm going to go with Miller. I think they need I think they need interior defensive line help, especially to move off of look to the future past Chris Jones. So I'm gonna go with Miller on that end. And then for the last three, we have Miami on the board. Again, they could go in a number of different directions. They could go double dipping at wide receiver. I don't think they do that. I would probably say Allen in the middle could also be helpful, but it's not a super strong linebacker class past Jacob Rodriguez. I'm gonna go ahead and roll with your boy. Oof. I actually don't know. This is tough. It's either Blake Miller or Colton Hood. I'm going to go with Blake Miller. I think they need to protect the guy they just brought in there. I will go with Blake Miller. Don't allow Malik Willis to take too many hits. Go ahead and get him some protection. New England gets interesting. Obviously, wide receivers in need, but if you presume that they fill that with A.J. Brown, then it might not be as big of a need as maybe people would be expecting. And as a result, I would think someone like C.J. Allen could be on their radar at pick number 31. And I mean, listen, Georgia linebackers, they are just scary, and adding that to Mike Vrabel's defense would be a monster. So I have a feeling that they would go there. And then lastly, you got Seattle. And where Seattle falls, I mean, could be a number of different directions. Obviously, could use some edge help on the outside. They did lose Tariq Woolen, so I'm wondering if Colton Hood actually makes a lot of sense to go to Seattle here. Plus, he had to have his top 30 visit with him. I'm going to say Colton Hood rounds us out in the first round. I'm going to say that's what it is. And there we go. B+. Look at that. Oh, well, that's for just the Ravens. Can I look at everybody? Man, what the heck? What is this? I don't know what to click. I don't want to lose my stuff. Full results. Here it is. Let's take a look at how... Look at that. I got two bad picks. Let's see. Let's see how it graded us. A+. Wow, look at that. A+. 2 Ds. I did not pick well for the Dallas Cowboys second pick, nor did they think Caden Proctor was a good pick. Didn't like my Jacob Rodriguez pick to the Bills. Interesting. Very interesting. I got 4 of the 5 first rounds were A+, though. So I could definitely see it. Let's see. A lot of B+. Steelers picks an A-. A+ on the Jets with Mekhi Lemon. Man, if the Jets do what I tell them, they're gonna run away with this thing. They just need to go get Arvo Reese and Mekhi Lemon and call it a day. Keldrick Falk for the Eagles, also A+ pick. I mean, look at that. I know what I'm doing. Dermod McCoy, B+. Look at that. Look, listen, man. A+ Peter Woods on the Texans. Oh my gosh. Unreal. Oh, man. Well, that was fun, actually. That was a very cool looking... I don't know what this dashboard is. Oh, it's like full results. What is this? Oh, I can save it. Let's go. I can save my draft. Cool. Oh, that's to share it. Oh, here. We'll just download it. Awesome. Well, that's cool. We'll get to see how much of I got right and how much I got wrong. But I got it all right. So, you know. What I said was objectively true, all right? It was objectively true. Anyway, thank you guys for watching me ramble, though, about predicting the NFL draft this year. Listen, I'm pretty confident I got the first pick right. Everything else I could be totally wrong on, but I'm excited to watch the first round. I'm also going to tune into Knicks Hawks, see what the status is there. Let me actually get my get the score on that real quick. Did Knicks close the gap? No, the gap widened. Atlanta's up 16 right now, up 56-40 with like 2 and change to play in the first half. Jalen Brunson 0 for 4 from 3. No points from either Bridges or Hart. Karl Anthony Towns playing fairly. OG Anunoby with 10. Oh my gosh, it's CJ McCollum, man. 16 points. He is still on a heater. He is carrying the Hawks right now, so that is some impressive work. I'll tune into that. I'm going to be watching the draft. I hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all did enjoy, of course, make sure to drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed with the bell so you know when I'm streaming. I stream Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And, yeah, it was overall a very fun episode today. I'm going to go watch the draft, turn on the Knicks, go pick up some pizza. I placed an order earlier around 8:15 for me to pick up. So that's where I'm going to go do that. And outside of that, I hope you all have a great evening. Hope you all enjoy the draft. Hope you all enjoy your weekend.